Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about thrillers for beginners. Thrillers for people who think they won't like thrillers. So the first book we want to talk about today is Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This book is about Laurel, who is a mother, and 10 years earlier her daughter Ellie, who was 15 at the time, went missing. And when this story starts, they had just barely found a new clue to solve her case a few months before this starts. Laurel then goes on to meet a man in a cafe, and they start having a relationship, and shortly thereafter he introduces her to his daughter, Poppy, who looks exactly like Ellie. So this book is about trying to solve the mystery of what actually happened to Ellie and why Poppy looks like her. This was so compelling. This felt like I couldn't put this down. Once I started it, I read it within a day. It was a complete page turner, and it had so many interesting twists and turns, and the plot reveal at the end was something that I didn't see coming. And when I look for a thriller, that's something that I always want to see. Is I want there to be enough suspense and enough mystery to keep me guessing and wanting to turn the pages, and I also always really want a really great plot reveal. So I by no means am an expert on thrillers. Like romance and fantasy are my favorite genres, but this book I felt was just an amazing thriller the whole time. I loved it. It was super enjoyable. The next book I want to talk about is The Death of Mrs Westaway by Ruth Ware. I think anything by Ruth Ware is honestly great for people who are new to thrillers, because she is a very expert writer at portraying mystery and creating a sense of atmosphere in her books. This is the third book of hers that I've read, and this one is my favorite by far. She is very, very good at drawing you into the mystery and having characters who aren't necessarily likable, but you still root for and you want them to have good things happen to them, even if maybe they're definitely like morally gray, not great characters. So this book is about Hal. She's a young woman. She's a tarot card reader. That's how she's making her living, and she's right on the brink of financial ruin. And she receives a letter letting her know that she has inherited a really large sum of money. But come to find out, it was wrongly addressed to her. And she goes to the funeral, and when she's there, she has this idea that maybe the inheritance could work in her favor after all, using the skills she's learned in her tarot card reading business. I thought the twist in this book was particularly good. The atmosphere, like I said, was just amazing. It was so creepy and so mysterious and really like reminiscent of gothic horror novels. It was just great. I think this would be a great read for the fall, especially. Like, I read this in October of last year, and it was just so atmospheric, and I loved it. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is technically horror, and that's Bird Box by Josh Malerman. I'm not sure that I even need to go over the plot. I think most people know what this is about. This is about Mallory and two children, and her two children, and in this world, there's a monster or some creature that when you look at it, then you're sent into a like deadly violent rage. And this book was recommended to me by Keely on Instagram. I'll link her Instagram below, because if you are not a beginner to thriller or horror and you want good recommendations, definitely go follow her, because she is an expert at that. But I reached out to her and said, what are some good, thrillers or mysteries or even horror for people who don't really like that genre and don't really like to be super scared? And she recommended this to me. She also recommended Ruth Ware to me. This book was such a ride. I still haven't seen the movie, but just the sense of dread that Josh Malerman is able to create in this with his writing, and the sense of something like just this sense of impending doom, like a catastrophe is coming, looming over them the whole time. Like, this was just fantastic. I thought it was amazing. I'm really excited to read Mallory, the second book. I think that will be equally great. And the next book I almost didn't include because I feel like this book, out of all of them, is a little bit more, it could be a little bit more triggering or scary. There are definitely some scenes in here that are unsettling to read, and especially like in the opening scene, there's a car accident that is a little bit gory. But that's Verity by Colleen Hoover. I am including this because I feel like the twist at the end was fantastic. Definitely don't see it coming. It really leaves you guessing, and it's just such a compulsively readable book. It's like, I just had to know what was happening in this. This was another one. I think I read pretty much all of these in just one day. The last 3 and this one I read in one day because I just couldn't put it down. So this book is about Lowen. She is a writer and she's struggling with her finances. She's also kind of on the brink of financial ruin, and she ends up meeting Jeremy. And it's just a chance meeting, and he is the husband of a very, very well-known best-selling author, Verity. Verity is had been in an accident, and she's not able to write or to finish writing this series that she was due to finish. And so Jeremy asks Lowen if she will ghostwrite it for Verity. She takes the job, and as she is doing this, she comes across an autobiography that Verity had written that was never meant to be seen. And she learns as she reads it. So part of this you're following Lowen, and then the other part you're reading the autobiography, seeing in back what happened that kind of led to this family's disaster. And this book is just nuts. Like, it's just crazy and insane, and the twists, it was a ride. It was an incredible ride. This book was amazing. Definitely recommend this. And the last book I have to talk about is You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This book kind of reminded me of like Gossip Girl for grown-ups, because it's set in New York City. It has a very fun, urban, socialite Manhattan vibe. You're following Shay, who is kind of unsure about what she wants to do for a career. She kind of feels like her career isn't going anywhere. Her love life isn't going anywhere. She just feels alone, and like her life is not going as planned. And then she meets Cassandra and Jean, who are sisters, and she gets sucked into their socialite world, and things start to really kind of go in a bad direction from there. I don't want to give too much more away because I feel like that's pretty much all that's on the cover, and I don't want to reveal too much because there are quite a lot of plot reveals in this and twists and turns that you don't want to know too much about. But this was a great psychological thriller, especially because you're kind of wondering what's true and what's not, and it was a fun time. I really liked it. It was a good thriller. I think this one is a really good one for people who are new to thrillers, because there's really not anything that would be considered necessarily like scary or bloody or traumatizing. It's just a mind game, a head trip. You're trying to figure out what is happening, and it's just a great read. So, okay, those are the 5 thrillers that I would recommend for people who are new to thrillers, and let me know if you've picked any of these up, what you think about them, and also if you have a suggestion for a thriller or a horror book for people who maybe typically don't read that genre, let me know, because I am always looking for more reads that aren't like Karen Slaughter level of trauma and gore. Thanks for watching. See you next time.